Welcome to our interview segment of Joe and the Fat Man. Joe Smeltzer of NittanySportsNow.com and the Joe and the Fat Man podcast is joined by a special guest today, Zach Seyko, who runs the Locked On Nittany Lions network, which is part of the Locked On Sports Network. Usually it's the other way around. I'm on Zach's podcast, but I'm grateful that he is coming on ours, and we're here to talk some Penn State wrestling. Zach, welcome in. Glad you could return the favor.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me. It's a privilege.
Yep, likewise. So obviously, there's some big news around Penn State this week. I don't know how much news it is yet, simply because not many people in the media have reported on it. Nittany Sports Now does have an article about it, but in any case, the short version is that Bo Bartlett, who wrestled his last match at Penn State in March, was a three-time All-American 2024 national runner-up. He wrote a very long post to Happy Valley Insiders Forum, which is Penn State's branch of the Rivals Network. The
Mhm.
post is way too long to read all of here, but the gist of it is that although Bartlett made it clear that he enjoyed his time with Penn State overall, there were negatives that happened in his time in college that impacted his mental health. He did not get into specifics of what these things were, but he did make it pretty apparent that one person was at the center of all this. Who that person is, Bartlett didn't name, so we can't say for sure. But in another post on Facebook, this is a user named the Nittany Lion posted on the Wrestling Room's Facebook uh, chat room. Quote, the rumors of why Carter Starachi was being investigated is that he was stealing from PSU teammates. Carter Starachi, of course, five-time national champion who, like Bartlett, wrapped up his career in March. Bo Bartlett's wife, who he married in May, Sid, commented on this Facebook post saying that Starachi, was being investigated for theft. Aside from that investigation, he had violated several of his teammates in ways that are absolutely not appropriate in any way, and to my knowledge, faces no repercussions for that behavior. I do not care how talented an individual is, how beneficial that may be for a team's optics or results. If they are causing discomfort to any degree in the locker room or outside of it, in my personal opinion, action should be taken. End the story. So there's not a whole lot we could say about this, right? We don't know a whole lot. Nobody has been charged or anything like that. Nobody certainly has been convicted yet. But Zach, this is a pretty big thing that could be out there, and it could become even bigger, in which case we'll be talking even more about it. So,
Yeah, and I don't have any insider information or context.
nor do I.
I've certainly asked around in that, and that's just it. Is that the people that I've talked to, the people that now know about this on the internet, are just confused. That's really what it boils down to here. So if people are looking for something like, oh, what does Zach know, or what does somebody know that has told you and I, and there's not a lot of information, and Bo in that post and posts that have been made from his wife are very vague, because they also do have to be careful about, okay, what information do they disclose? There is an alleged investigation. It sounds like it's a private investigation, again, allegedly speaking, right? So this doesn't sound like this is a criminal investigation. This seems like a private issue. At the end of the day, the my 2 cents in this, because I don't like this kind of discourse as it is. I admire Bo Bartlett. I thought he gave 5 incredible years to Penn State. And my issue looking at this is that this is how he's going to be remembered personally. It's not going to be, well, he was a three, hey, he's a three-time All-American. He was a runner-up in those 3 years. He finished third, second, and third. That's a pretty darn good career, if I say so myself. And Bartlett now leaving the Nittany Line Wrestling Club on top of this. So there are a lot of bridges that are being burned in the process. I don't know if that was Bo's intention, if this was something that he had planned to do. I just hate this scenario unfolding, because instead of him being remembered for the best 5 years that he could have given Penn State, being sacrificial, just getting into the lineup because he was the best option at 149, even though that wasn't his weight class, and then finishing top three consecutive years, That's not what he's going to be remembered for by the Penn State fan base. It's now going to be posts on the internet, and beef at this point in time. Again, I want to be very careful because this could be serious, but from the information that we do have, it's a severe disagreement at this point in time, and you're airing dirty laundry on the internet on platforms that, again, it's the internet, but did you need to do that on a message board? Because what prompted your post to begin with was criticism from nameless, faceless fans on that message board because they were going after your partner. And then it turned into, well, there was a teammate that I can't talk about specifically that was harassing us allegedly. So that's where people kind of need to focus on it at this point in time until more information comes to light. And after abruptly exiting the NLWC, we honestly might never get that information as well.
Absolutely, and Bartlett is reported by Pat Minio of the Wrestling Room and others to have joined the New York City RTC. So we'll see what becomes of the rest of Bo Bartlett's freestyle career, which is just beginning. Speaking of freestyle, and to be clear, whatever more information comes out of this, I'll be on it at Nittany Sports Now. Zach will talk about it on Locked On with the information as it comes, but as far as what's currently out there, Final X is this weekend, Saturday, June 14th in Newark, and Penn State Wrestling and NLWC are well represented. 7 of the 9 bouts, which will determine the starting lineup for the USA at the World Championships this fall, feature guys that wrestled either for Penn State or for the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club or for both. And there's 2 bouts, and I want your take on this, Zach. There's 2 bouts to me that really stand out as far as intrigue. And both of them involve 2 of Penn State's youngest wrestlers. Obviously, Luke Lillidahl is going to be facing a guy at 57 kilos that many feel is going to be the USA's, not only USA's representative at the Olympic Games in 2028, but he could win an Olympic gold medal. And that's Spencer Lee, who obviously has already etched himself in the history as one of the greatest college wrestlers ever. And his freestyle career already features a silver medal. And he's a young guy at 26, so there might be a lot more ahead. Luke Lillidahl is just getting started. Like Spencer Lee, he was a top recruit coming out of high school. Like Spencer, got into his starting lineup right away. He did not win a national title in year one, like Spencer Lee did for Iowa, but Lillidahl still won the Big Ten, still finished in 3rd place, and at the World Team, he didn't even have to go to the World Team Trials. He won the title at the U.S. Open at that weight class, and therefore punched his Final X ticket. So that's the one, and then the second one is kind of the talk of the summer so far as Penn State wrestling and what they've been doing in freestyle was PJ Duke beating 2 national champions in one day. He's beat multiple All-Americans. And now he's going against the man they call Yanni, who is a 4-time national champ and definitely a college wrestling great in his own right, along with Spencer Lee. So those are the 2 matches I'm looking forward to. Messenbrink and David Carr, again, that's going to be a big one. Zach, what's catching your eye this weekend? What are you looking for?
Don't forget about Marcus Blaze wrestling a true third place match against Brock Hardy. So there's a chance, depending on how the lineup ultimately unfolds, where Blaze could be 133, could be 141. Just something that I'm keeping an eye on, even though it's not a true Final X match. I mean, it is. It's going down at Final X. It's a spot on the world team. So and going up against somebody that Brock Hardy was in that final against Jesse Mendez this past season. So that's another one I'm looking forward to. Luke Lillidahl has an opportunity to really make a name for himself. Now, he's number 5 in the world rankings at 57 kilos. So it is a challenge here for Spencer Lee. And I think the key here is Masanosuke Ono. That's not a crazy take, Joe. That is the key, because when there was that Flow Wrestling event, the headline matchup was Spencer Lee versus Ono. Ono won 3-2. Lillidahl has been training with Ono recently, and as we speak, as we record this show. So Ono he's not going to be coaching Lilladall and saying, here's what you need to do. This is how you defeat Spencer Lee. But it's all those training sessions that accumulate over time that get Lilladall closer to where Spencer Lee was. Look, the last time they wrestled, it was an 11-0 tech. Spencer Lee looked like the veteran, but Lilladall has certainly closed the gap. I do expect this to go to 3. I don't know that Lilladall wins in this instance. I still think Spencer Lee will take the world team spot, but it would not shock me if Lilladall ultimately. What would shock me is a Lilladall sweep. Out of all the possible results, a 2-0 sweep by Lilladall would in fact shock me. I think this goes to 3, almost guaranteed. And if it happens to go to 3 and Lilladall wins 2 of them, then that's a possibility as well. A Lilladall sweep. Great for Penn State. To jump to PJ Duke, Yianni Diakomihalis, kind of the same situation. If PJ Duke wins 2-0 in this best of 3, that would surprise me. If Diakomihalis wins 2-0, would not shock me. If this goes to 3, which is actually what I am anticipating, I do think this one does in fact go to 3 as well, or it's going to be close. It is going to be a sweep, but it might come down to a final takedown or criteria where, if Duke makes another move, then he pushes it to 3. So it's kind of in that category where Diakomihalis is still the favorite. But when I watch PJ Duke wrestle, it is going to be very hard. Let's bring it back to Penn State specifically. It is going to be very difficult to keep him out of the lineup this season, right, Joe. I have where's he supposed to go? 157. Because Mitchell Messenbrink is not giving up 65. Levi Haynes is at 174, and that's a big jump in weight for Duke at this point in time. But he's wrestling around 157 pounds as we speak. This is where he's competing. If he could steal that starting spot away from Tyler Kasak, that's not out of the question. I do think that is more of a toss-up than people would be led to believe. I think that PJ Duke could come in, win that wrestle off against Tyler Kasak, because what it is about Duke is, he's inexperienced, and that's why he would lose to Diakomihalis. But in the same process, he's defeating Antrell Taylor, Ridge Lovett. I get it. It's freestyle, but I don't watch Duke and say, he's clearly inexperienced. He just needs another year. He needs another 2 years. No, he is this good right now. Whether it's Tyler Kasak or PJ Duke at 157, that's your title favorite right there at that weight class. So that is a battle I am very intrigued in. If Penn State does have a plan and they say, hey, Duke's going to redshirt, this is a year to just develop and everything, okay. But I don't know how you can confidently say that redshirting him is the best possibility here. I do like Diakomihalis and Lee to win respectively, but the outlook for both of them, Lilladall should be a title favorite at 125. Duke would be a title favorite at 157. But the other best wrestler in the country is the guy that he's fighting for the starting spot. It's not at another school.
So if you're Tyler Kasak, what goes through your head as you're watching this? Because obviously the good teammate thing to do would be to just cheer the Penn State guy on, but the better PJ Duke looks against Yianni, the more nervous you might be if you're Tyler Kasak, because you could go from a guy who was probably the favorite to win the national title at 157 going into the NCAA championships. Obviously, it didn't turn out that way, but you go from that status to fighting for your job. That seems to be pretty difficult to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, in the process, I know that Tyler Kasak right now maybe not in this present moment as we sit here in the middle of June, but he was coming off of concussion protocol, and who knows if that ultimately affected him, because he did seem, I don't want to question conditioning or anything like that, but you could see that, okay, he wasn't at his peak when it mattered most. And it looked like, not necessarily that he had given up, but that Joey Blaze in that moment was too much for him when he should have, speaking of Blaze, right? That's yep. Marcus's older brother, go figure, right? But Tyler Kasak, had he not gone through concussion protocol, I think we're talking about him as an NCAA champion. I do think, and sometimes it's just matchup dependent. Joey Blaze's length, his height, were the difference against Kasak, because lest we forget that Kasak pinned in the Big Ten tournament the eventual NCAA champion in Antrell Taylor. So it's very, A beats C, B beats C, but C beats A, right? It's this weird, it's not a straight domino effect here. It's Kasak can beat Taylor, but Taylor defeats Blaze, and then Blaze defeats K-Sac. So what 157 across the board is extremely interesting because all of those guys return. Penn State just can't go wrong either way, whether it's K-Sac at 157 or PJ Duke, because I think PJ Duke is, again, a favorite. And then there's Meyer Shapiro. So those four, one of those four is winning a title at 157, or one of those five, if we're going K-Sac and or Duke, and then those other three that I mentioned.
So David Carr against Mitchell Messenbrink has become a pretty interesting little rivalry over the past year. Obviously, Carr got Messenbrink, or Messenbrink partially got himself in that NCAA championship match in 2024. And then the two met again in freestyle, and Messenbrink didn't just win; he won in pretty dominant fashion, teching David Carr. Now they're meeting again. Do you think that this is going to look more like the folk style match in Kansas City that was just a back and forth epic, or is it going to be more like what we saw at the U.S. Open where Messenbrink just kind of did what he did?
If this goes to 3, that is good news for Mitchell Messenbrink and bad news for David Carr, because this is a question of stamina and just how long can you last? How are you? And that's why you add more time. It comes down, it's really just conditioning. It's not a matter of skill or timing. It is truly, because there is not much that separates the two in terms of technique. But when it comes to overall conditioning, there is a clear gap between Messenbrink and Carr. And Messenbrink's my choice, whether it's in 2 matches or in 3 matches. And now here, okay, I will, maybe I'll concede this. David Carr wins the first one, and then Mitchell Messenbrink wins the back 2. Wins the second and the third. So this, in my mind, very well could go to a best of 3 with Carr winning the first, and it's close, something like a 12-10. There's going to be a lot of scoring. There's going to be a lot of takedowns and not push outs. And we're talking, because we saw in the U.S. Open 4-point moves, leg laces, right? Just a lot of momentum swings between both wrestlers. Just when you think, oh, Messenbrink's down 6-8 points, oh, he's in the lead by 4 or 5 at a given moment. So I will take Messenbrink, and I could see Carr taking match 1 and then Messenbrink taking 2 and 3.
All right, Final X is Saturday, June 14th, broadcast on Flow Wrestling from Newark, New Jersey. It's going to be interesting, and Zach, you have interesting content up literally every day on your network. What could we be looking for from you?
What you said, just generally content every single day of the week, podcasts devoted to football recruiting, wrestling recruiting when it does happen. It's just, Penn State football's building classes of 25 to 30 players, and Penn State might have 5 or 6 prospects in a class, or this time around when they have 2, 3, they have 2 at this point in time between Jaden James and Sam Herring in this recruiting cycle. So basketball too, when it's appropriate, of course. So there is nothing that I will not talk about over at Locked On Nittany Lions. So appreciate you having me on, Joe.
All right, Zach Seyko, Locked On Nittany Lions. Thank you very much for joining us. When we come back, we'll talk more Penn State football in the recruiting world on Joe and the Fat Man. Okay.